Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this webinar briefing event. Firstly, I'd like to thank Alexis for being our expert this morning and talking us through all things SonicWall technology related. We're going to be looking at the new SonicWall operating system and the new Gen 7 SonicWall devices. Questions will be welcomed. If you have any questions, then please feel free to chat to us at the end. I'd like to thank everybody who signed up to attend, and just to remind you all that this session will be recorded and I'll be following up with each of you after the event. So let's begin, and I'll hand over to Alexis. Thank you very much, Alexis.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So without further ado, I will now begin the presentation. So good morning, everybody. My name is Alexis Holmes, and I am the Channel SE for UK South and Ireland. And I'm going to be talking to you today about our new Generation 7 TZ appliances, specifically the TZ670 appliance and the TZ570 range of appliances. Now I'm going to be covering off various things, so just here's a little agenda just to give you an idea of what's going to be covered. Essentially, I'm going to be giving you reasons why we've made certain decisions within our changes to our appliances and what that can do to benefit you. Talk about how these can now be deployed to make your life easier for your customers. And then moving on from there, we'll be talking about the actual hardware itself, ways that it can be deployed, how we can stack up competitively, what bundles that we offer from a licensing standpoint, and then we'll move into some FAQs, and then I'll just summarize everything for you at the end. But this should encompass everything that you need. So one of the things that we see is obviously more and more organizations nowadays, more than any other time, thanks to COVID, have to do more with less. And so this really buys straight into the SonicWall concept of boundless security. And boundless cybersecurity really is all about knowing the unknown. And to do this, we have technologies such as our Capture ATP with real-time deep memory inspection. And this allows us to essentially protect against zero-day threats for people. We move along, and then obviously then you have unified visibility and control. And for this, we have Capture Security Center, which is our management and reporting platform. It's fully cloud-based for our portfolio of solutions. And then finally, obviously, disruptive economics, being able to get the best that you can and cover as much as you can with as little as possible. And this is where SonicWall really shines, as we've got a very broad portfolio that interlocks very well with a lot of synergies. But today, because we're going to be talking about the new TZ Gen 7 appliances, what we're really going to be concentrating on is going to be the know the unknown and unified visibility and control. So if you have a look at our market share that we have, we've got about 25% of everything up to about $1,500. And this is really quite important because this shows in the sort of smaller firewall size part of the market, SonicWall really does have quite a large share. Now, what we're really hoping is that our TZ Gen 7 appliances will really help us take this market leading share and grow it further still. Obviously, for you as our partner base, this is great for you because you're going to have Generation 6 appliances and Generation 6.5 appliances that need refreshing. And this will be a great opportunity to put in newer equipment with newer security features for you. On top of that as well, obviously, with our reach into smaller deployments, this is going to be extremely useful with our concept of sort of SD deployment or software deployed networking, allowing us to deploy firewalls and entire offices en masse. So this can be great for distributed enterprise and also for things such as retail or any other type of chain. And again, being able to use this SD branch technology will make that an awful lot easier, and this will become much more apparent going forwards. So if we have a look at the sort of the market drivers that we have that have really pushed us to where we are, one of the big things that we have is 5G, and that's something that's really pushed things forwards. Obviously, we're seeing speeds for wireless as well as untethered internet access becoming faster and faster, and so being able to maintain these speeds on devices that can accept 5G and 4G dongles is really quite a core thing to be able to do. And we've seen the huge growth in wireless devices as well, wireless becoming ever more the norm over a wide network in all sorts of offices wherever you go. And so to this end, we've looked to essentially improve the wireless and add additional wireless functionality to our Generation 7 TZs. Now, again, we're looking for consolidation for our customers and our partners. And so this is where we put additional features in that really help with deployment and management. Firstly, we've got secure software-defined WAN, and this allows you to optimize multiple internet connections to get the best connectivity and performance, as well as high resilience out of your connectivity. We've got zero-touch deployment, allowing for ease of deployment with minimal configuration. Literally plug it in and turn it on. Doesn't get much easier than that. And then obviously we add cloud management. So if you're managing a portfolio greater than a single device, you can manage even a single device or more devices in the cloud directly, giving you greater control and flexibility. Now, on top of all of this, obviously, we've got new hardware, so we need to make room for new technologies. And if, you know, when we look at what we have today, sandboxing really is a very important technology to people being able to block unknown threats. And so being able to do that, it's an absolute must. And we look at Ssl Decryption, this is another core feature. Obviously, now that we're looking in real time and we look at sort of the Google Transparency Report, this month we've seen Windows peak at about 88% of all HTTPS web traffic in Chrome-based browsers, sitting around about 88%. And it's even higher if you look at things like Android and macOS. So it's quite an imperative to be able to decrypt that traffic and make sure that it is clean when it comes into the corporate network. And again, we need greater throughputs. Overall traffic consumption and infrastructure has grown quite significantly in the last sort of 5 years. And this is something that we really do aim to look into improve. Now, obviously, there are plenty of pain points that lots of people have to deal with. Obviously, we're looking at things like distributed branches for SMBs and making sure that security is there, along with the flexibility and connectivity options that people want. The use of point products, so rolling out solutions across multiple areas and being able to unify policy there would be an important thing for people. Deployment at scale, again, if you are going to be a very large organization and you're going to be rolling out multiple devices, being able to orchestrate everything from a single pane of glass is going to be a key thing to be able to do. Obviously, viruses and malware don't sit still for any man or woman, and so being able to protect against this, we need emerging technologies to be able to be leveraged and added to the appliance. And you can't ask for a better place to be than at ground zero for a brand new appliance. You're right at the beginning of its product life cycle, and these ideas have basically been built into the new hardware to allow for expandability going forwards. Again, we see a rise in the expansion of connected devices, Internet of Things growing even more. Truly, it is the wild west of security that we see nowadays. And you take that into consideration, and we're seeing internet connected everything from fridges to dishwashers to phones, televisions, you name it. If it's in a property, it can be attached to even light bulbs or doorbells, you name it. And so with more and more devices on the network, you need to be able to expand to be able to look after this. And this can be quite a problem for people with older hardware. Again, growth of encrypted web connections. And this is what I was talking about with the sort of, when we look at Windows this month and it's sitting at 88% of its web traffic being encrypted. This is an important thing that people really need to be able to get into and really apply security services to. And then lastly, a shortage of knowledge. There really aren't that many highly technical people, I'm sure, as you're all aware, when you're looking for new IT staff. Finding a good, competent engineer isn't easy, and there aren't many of them around. So making what engineers that you do have make their time more efficient and go further is another key area for SonicWall to help you and maximize your productivity within your organization. So now we've talked about some of the problems that people have walked into. What we have here is the new generation TZ appliances. And what we see here in the stack is the TZ670. Now this is a wired only device, truly fantastic. And then we move up from that, and then we've got the wired only TZ570W, or wireless variant, and that's our wireless 570. And above that, at the top of the stack, we've got the 570. Now the 570 comes in two variants. We've got a normal wired 570, and we've also got a power over Ethernet variant as well. Now, along with obviously the new look and feel for the hardware, obviously we've really revamped the architecture internally. We've moved to an entirely x86 based system, although we've still kept SonicOS on top, which is an entirely proprietary operating system that we're very proud of. And we've managed to integrate that in with the x86 based architecture. What this means is that we can do an awful lot more and do it an awful lot faster. It truly is next generation hardware, able to really very carefully and very well exceed the performance of the previous generation of equipment. Now, when we look at the features that we've got in there, we've added a whole host of new features, which I'll be talking about a few of them in a moment, and that will give you an idea of some of the new things that have come with the new Gen 7 platform. Now, on top of all of that, huge amounts of performance. We're looking at upwards of 3 times performance compared to previous generations of hardware. So looking at the sort of features and benefits that we have available to us, you know, superior technology, moving on to this new hardware platform really has allowed us to do so much more. So one of the cool things that we've done, and this is really a big first for us, is we've brought 10 gig Ethernet to the desktop form factor. We're the first to market with this. This is something that's normally been available only sort of on our larger appliances in our Nsa range, but now we've brought this 10 gig Ethernet connectivity directly to smaller deployments. And of course, with growing infrastructure speeds, it's ever more important that we're able to do this. Again, this ties in with the concept of secure SD branch. So having a synergized portfolio of products that all link together. So within secure SD branch, we can link in our SonicWall capture client. We can also link in, obviously, the firewalls, our wireless access points, and also our new managed switches that are all managed and synergized directly with the firewall. So the idea of having a one-stop shop where all the product talks together to get more intelligence really is a great way to go there. And really Gen 7 really leans into that very heavily. Again, the single pane of glass for management. So for those of you that have used Capture Security Center Management, or as we affectionately call it, CMA, that has now been revamped, and we've now got the new NSM, or Network Security Manager. This is our new sort of next generation cloud management solution and on-premise solution that's available, and really adds a lot of new features for sort of distributed deployments. So when talking about NSM, this is a really key product that really sits alongside the Gen 7 firewalls and really adds a lot of additional functionality that you otherwise would not get. So one of the things that you get is more intelligent grouping of devices. Now, for those of you that have used CMA, you know that if you want to switch between tenants, you have to come back into CSC from the drop down, pick the tenant you want to go into, and then manage their devices. With NSM, you can manage all of your tenants' devices through a single pane of glass. You don't have to come back into CSC proper in order to do that. You can stay in the management software for that. One of the other bits that we've really put in that really is a huge move forwards and a really big improvement. We obviously had zero touch now for a while for our firewalls to make ease of deployment there for you a simpler thing. But what we've done is we've really streamlined that. Previously, it would take up to 15 minutes for a device to acquire into the cloud. Now we're down to about 2 minutes. So we've really streamlined that initial deployment into our cloud management. But the really big thing is really part 2 of our zero touch deployment, which is templating. This allows you to pre-configure a template, either a full firewall configuration or even just a couple of firewall settings that are largely irrelevant. Might be a small thing like just making a little change to your gateway antivirus, and what you can do here with your little gateway antivirus setting, or maybe a little network object that you've defined, is you can then use that template to push either that or even a template that's a full configuration to a single firewall, to all firewalls, or to only newly added firewalls. So it gives you the ability to essentially create templates that you can reuse again and again. The idea here being that if you have a larger deployment, maybe you've got 6 or 7 sites and you need to maintain all of those devices, rather than configuring them all, you can use a template to essentially configure all your devices from a single pane of glass through a single template. So why duplicate work when you can do it once and then replicate it across your portfolio? Now, again, you can have multiple templates. So you could have templates for different branches, or maybe you're using templates for your data center, maybe for your branch, and maybe you've got a cloud-based SonicWall firewall as well that's sitting in, say, Azure or AWS, in which case you can then use a public cloud template that you could generate for that as well. But the idea being here that you can then use templates to really minimize the amount of work and downtime when essentially configuring a larger amount of devices. Now, moving on from that single pane of glass management, what we get here is the AC Wave 2 wireless. So about 1.5 to 2 years ago, we launched our AC Wave 2 generation 2 appliances with our 200 series wireless appliances, and fantastic appliances they are. And what we've now done is we brought that Wave 2 technology directly into the firewalls to give you that speed of wireless well over 1 gig. So you've really get to use of that extra bonus throughput, and the firewalls have got the performance to be able to handle that as well. On top of that, one of the other things that we've added in with this as well is synergies with our switches, our capture client endpoint solution, and our wireless access points, giving you the ability to integrate them and feedback features throughout your entire portfolio that you would be working with. So that was a really big thing for us as well. Now, with the new hardware, we've added a few extra things as well. So one of the new things that we've had with our move to x86 is the ability to have built-in storage now. So this means that logging is now done to appliance and not to volatile memory. And this essentially will allow you to essentially, should the appliance fail or have to reboot, you'll still have all your logs, which is extremely useful. On top of that as well, we also have additional storage that will allow you to get up to 1/4 terabyte of additional space. Engineering are working on additional features, but they're being very tight-lipped on what they're going to be. But watch this space. As soon as we know, they will be made available to you, and we will tell you. Another thing that we've really improved upon as well, and this was a big ask from our partners, is redundant power supply. So this is something that, if you look at our NSA range, comes in at the NSA 5650, so quite high up the sort of the top of our mid-end devices. What we've now done is brought redundant power supplies down to the TZ range. So actually for sort of $50 or less, you can actually add redundant power supplies to your TZ, giving you much more resilience at a very low cost. So that's a really nice feature that's gone in there as well. We've increased the port density specifically on the 570. So we've added about 25% additional port density over the previous generation's TZ500. So that's always a great improvement. More ports is always more handy. We've added SFP Plus and SFP ports to the TZ range now for greater flexibility with deployment should you need to connect fiber or copper. And obviously with the TZ570, we've added PoE Plus support as well, so you can drive wireless access points, switches, and various other PoE devices. Another thing that's been improved upon is the USB interfaces on the front of the devices. Now, USB 3 has been added simply because we need that increased throughput for 5G connectivity. Being able to put through that additional throughput really is core, and that's a nice improvement and a quality of life change I think we'll all be glad for. Now, from a feature standpoint, moving away from the hardware, we obviously have a brand new operating system, which is SonicOS 7. This is a brand new user interface and user experience for you. Much more streamlined, much easier to use, laid out in a more logical fashion. One of the nice things with the new Gen 7 OS is it is entirely mirrored in the Network Security Manager cloud management platform. This means that when you're moving from managing firewalls locally to managing them in the cloud, you don't have to relearn a different interface and a different UI. You'll have the same experience whether you're managing directly on an appliance or within the cloud. Another big thing that's been put in, and it's been a big ask from our customer base, is TLS 1.3 support. Now, this is really important because what we're seeing with obviously the growth of HTTPS is a move towards TLS 1.3 from 1.2. And again, this is nothing new. We saw TLS 1.1 come out after vulnerabilities were found in TLS 1, and then we moved to 1.2, which was the standard for many years, but now vulnerabilities are starting to surface. And because of that, we're seeing more and more websites moving towards TLS 1.3. Now, this would have been a problem for DPI SSL because it can't decrypt TLS 1.3, but what we can do on our Gen 6 devices is force a failback to TLS 1.2 so we can decrypt it. But obviously, ideally, we would want to have that superior security in place. So being able to natively support TLS 1.3 really is an important feature, and it's something that I'm really glad has come to our Gen 7 appliances. On top of that as well, we've also got our new Sonic Express app. And the Sonic Express app is essentially a really powerful tool that allows you to jump in and essentially register and manage your device directly through a USB cable. And this will work with both Android and it will also work with iOS as well. So regardless of what platform that you are working with, it will essentially allow you to connect in with the cable that came with your device. So just a basic USB cable. So you just need a USB-A connection on one end, and you'll plug that into the front of your firewall. And from there, you'll be able to register your device and do basic management tasks as well. So this can be very useful if you're in a data center and you don't have maybe a comms cable that you need or anything like that. And you can literally just connect in with a USB cable that you keep in your bag. And from there, off you go. So really phenomenal, very, very useful, and it's a fantastic way to do things. Now, the Sonic Express app is available directly from the App Store, and if you're going with Android, it's available from the Play Store. It's absolutely free of charge, and it's something you can download and utilize for our new Generation 7 appliances right away. Now, moving on from the Sonic Express app, we've also, obviously, as I sort of talked about earlier, we've improved our zero-touch deployment, allowing you to essentially streamline the deployment of that, increasing speed of acquisition, along with the ability to add templating through NSM to actually auto-configure devices as soon as they're registered as well. So really nice enhancement to be added through the feature set. Now, zero-touch deployment on our firewalls couldn't be easier. All you need to do is register the appliance to your account and attach it to a tenant. Once you do that, if you connect your appliance to obviously your router and then power it up, once that happens, what it will do is check to see if it's been registered to a SonicWall account, which obviously you would have done in the first stage. We'll then see which tenant it's registered to, and then it will put itself into cloud management automatically for you. You don't have to do any configuration or deployment in order to be able to do that. Now, secure SD-WAN is another thing that we've obviously brought in as well. So the whole idea of taking SD-WAN that you would see on our firewalls already, but then essentially making it more robust and allowing you to leverage it with VPNs and other technologies to basically give you this resilient but also tightly controlled environment really is a nice enhancement as well. From a performance standpoint, we're looking at 3 times the performance of a Gen 6 appliance. And that's a really important thing to understand. So while it is still sort of geared towards, if you're looking at sort of the 670 up to about 80 or 90 users, it's got the performance where it can actually sit alongside. If you need if you've got better infrastructure for your organization, it will essentially scale to sort of performance comparable somewhere between an NSA 3650 and an NSA 4650. It really is quite a beast of a device. Now, it's not just high performance for stateful firewall throughput. We've also increased the performance across the board for all of our security services, and they fall in line with this multiplier. And that's really important to understand, because it means that now you can secure sort of higher speed lines with full security turned on with no compromises. We've increased your connection count as well, taking it from, for instance, on the TZ670 from the TZ600, which sat at around 150,000 connections, all the way up to 1.5 million connections. So a huge jump in connection count. This is really important when obviously you're dealing with having more and more IoT devices attached within a network. Being able to have enough memory and connections to handle that additional traffic load is important. We've got faster deep packet inspection as well. So this means faster decryption of TLS and SSL, more efficient. Obviously, we've got that TLS 1.3 support in there, but it's quicker, it's more efficient, and you can push through more data again. And again, a lower total cost of ownership. If you look at the performance gains of what you're getting versus the price, it's a massive increase on what you would normally have to pay to get an equivalent performance. So a real great saving. That lower total cost of ownership really is a boon to all users. Now, looking at the pain points that we discussed earlier, we've touched on all of these, but obviously being able to improve branch office security and connectivity. Obviously with SD branch, you can have that unified policy automatically generated and pushed to those new devices. Again, with point products having devices all over the place, being able to have that unified security posture and again maintain and manage that from a single pane of glass is a priceless commodity to have. And in deployment at scale, again, this falls in with that zero touch that we have, being able to essentially not necessarily have feet on the street for every deployment, but being able to just automate the rollout of devices and essentially just have them plug in and auto configure and auto deploy really makes large scale deployment a dream to do and a lot easier. Again, emerging technologies, there will always be new threats and there will always be new levels of security to be able to deal with this. In this case, we can talk about TLS 1.3 that was added in order to get a workaround for TLS 1.3 decryption. Now, obviously, we're at the beginning of the hardware life cycle. So right now with this hardware and software refresh, you're really in the ideal point to jump onto a new platform to get the most out of it. It's literally just landed. So you've got a good long life out of this product, sort of around 7 to 8 years out of it. So you're really right at the beginning of that cycle. Now, we talked about the rise of Internet of Things devices and mobile devices within offices and obviously within homes as well. And obviously when you're having to connect more and more devices, that's more contended bandwidth going around the network. So having something with multi-gigabit support is really important. Again, because we support 5 and 10 gig Ethernet connectivity directly on the devices, this will really help with that. Now, we talked about that encrypted traffic as well with DPI SSL, and being able to essentially decrypt that at speeds that are now relevant is a core thing. And this is something where the new Gen 7s really shine. And again, the security, the lack of cybersecurity experts, having a limited sort of engineering team, having to manage more and do more in these times is a real problem for people. So being able to essentially simply onboard new devices and do group configuration and changes is going to make life an awful lot easier for you. So anything you can do to lift that load off your team and simplify things, I think is going to be a great boon to you. Now, where do they stack up? Well, if we look at the TZ670 and 570, you can see performance-wise, it's kind of sitting somewhere between 2.5 to 3 times the performance of basic stateful firewalls performance. Now remember, this is firewalling performance without security applied to it. Now obviously, as we kind of move down, we can see other performance statistics as well. So we can see number of interfaces on the TZ500 has grown from 8 to 10, which is obviously a really nice thing. Obviously, on top of that, we've also got an additional SFP ports in there, which will do up to 5 gigs, which is great. We've got more memory. We've got that onboard storage as well, redundant power supplies, TLS 1.3 support, and AC Wave 2 support as well. If we come down the bottom, we can also see the maximum connection count has greatly increased as well. You're looking at sort of 10 times for the TZ670 and 8 times for the 570, but it's no slouch now, pushing over 1.25 million connections out as opposed to 150,000. So big jumps there all around. So when we look at this performance statistics with security turned on, again, you are still looking at around about 3 times performance. You know, we're looking at about 2.9 times for the 570 with all your security turned on, moving from 0.7 megabits to all the way up to 2 megabits. So there's a big jump there, and we can see those are reflected in the statistics as well. Same goes for the IPS. You know, we're looking at 2.5 times performance there as well. And VPN performance has almost doubled, which is fantastic, because that's very crypto heavy. And again, the story is very similar when we look at the Gen 6 appliances. Again, we're looking at somewhere between 2.5 to 3 times performance. In fact, we're looking at sort of about a 3.1 times performance multiplier on the security. So actually, when you're looking at sort of security traffic, we're kind of looking at sort of going from 800 megs all the way up to 2.5 gigs now. You're looking at just over 3 times the multiplier. And again, you're looking at just under 2 times the multiplier for VPN performance. So this really is great to see, and really is quite a large boom there. Now, transitioning, for those of you that already have Gen 6 or older appliances, it's going to be easy to move across. So anybody with a TZ600 or a TZ600 PoE device with a TZ600P, those are going to basically be analogous directly to the TZ670. So this is going to be the direct replacement for that appliance. If we look at sort of the TZ500 range, where you can have the TZ500 and the 500W, that is going to be moved across directly to the TZ570, 570W, and 570P. So these are going to be your direct transitions to an equivalent product within the new Gen 7 portfolio. Now, what are the target verticals? And the answer is all. You're looking at a very powerful appliance in a very small form factor. And this means that it will basically fit very well in retail, hospitality, government, financial services, healthcare, local government, and obviously if you're an MSSP, it's going to be an ideal fit for you as well. So really, it can go into essentially any vertical that you'll be looking to roll it out into, and it will be able to flex its muscles with no problems. So it's a great fit for anybody, and it really is just a great little firewall. Now, a couple of examples for deployments that we have available to you, just to give you an idea where you could roll this out, is if you're going to be rolling this out for a classic SMB deployment, using it as your sort of primary gateway point, you'll be able to run PoE devices off of your device. So if you've got something like a TZ500P, you could use that. You can drive things like wireless access points off of it, phone systems, printers, and such like. Again, if you're in retail, you could drive the point of sale system from it as well. Then obviously you can have additional connectivity on your LAN as well. Easy to zero touch and get out. And again, if you want additional resilience, you can just plug in a 4G or 5G dongle and get cellular connectivity for failover as well. Should you need that additional throughput performance, you've got those multi-gig ports as well to get you additional performance on that LAN. Now, if we're going to sort of a more distributed deployment with the device, this is where it's going to tie in with more of the portfolio. And what we see here with the concept of SD branch is all the SonicWall security solutions coming together to give you a more holistic approach to security. So sort of at your sort of core office, you can have your NSA firewall that's going to be essentially being at your corporate HQ, and that'll be essentially managing your main office. And then from there, for people on the move, we're going to have Capture Client, as well as Cloud Application Security, which is going to protect you and your data in the cloud, as well as possible options there to run an NSV. Then we look at sort of remote office, and in this example here, what we've got is either a TZ or an NSA. In this case, we're going to be talking about the TZ range. And what we can then hook in there is our new SonicWall wireless switches that can be hooked straight into those 10 gig or 5 gig ports, managed directly as part of that firewall, and even add in our wireless access points with the AC Wave 2s, and then have that all put into that single configuration. So when you're zero touching a branch, your remote offices will basically, you'll drop ship a wireless access point, a firewall, and a switch. And then you can set a complete automated configuration for that. So people just plug in the Ethernet cables to the appropriate ports. They don't need to necessarily be particularly technical to do that. Plug it into the router, turn it on, it will acquire and then fully configure the entire branch for them. So this really is a shining idea where this can then be replicated on multiple branches, and gives you an idea where you can then make the most of that, as well as integrating with other SonicWall products to give you that sort of secure software defined branch solution. Now, when we're looking at where we stand up competitively, it's a good place to start. So if we open this up, you can see where the 570 and the 670 are. We're head and shoulders above our TZ500 and 600, as you can see. Sort of doing that good multi-gig throughput with security enabled. And if you have a look at sort of 40 gates, they're kind of sitting alongside our TZ's 600 and 500 appliances. And then if we have a look at sort of other brands, if you sort of look at Meraki's or you look at Sophos appliances, they're all going to be kind of be sitting around that sort of same performance level, price performance level as you would with the TZ600 and 500. In this case, you can see that TZ670 and 570 really outstrip all of them, including our older generation hardware as well. And you can see really leaps and bounds ahead through performance as well versus dollar rate. So really great value for money. Now, right now, we've got a Secure Upgrade Plus. So if anybody has an eligible product, you can move to our new Gen 7 appliances at a very low cost. So right now we have available anything that's eligible was going to be if you want to go to a TZ670, you're going to be eligible with a TZ600 and a 600p. If you've got the TZ500s, then you can go to either a 570, 570W, 570p, or a 670. And if you've got legacy appliances, so generation 5 appliances, easily identifiable. Gen 5 TZs are either silver or come in white plastic. And if it's an older, lower end generation 5 NSA appliance, it will be in silver. And those will also all be eligible to be upgraded to the TZ570 and 670, depending whereabouts in the chain they fall. We've got more details on the website under our promotion section that will detail the exact appliances and where they sit. But overall, it's a really easy process to take up. And if you do have an existing product that you want to move up, remember any existing services and licenses you have will migrate across to your new product as part of the secure upgrade. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to reach out to NetThreat about that. Now, one thing that has changed, and for those of you that have used our products, you probably know that we have something called the Comprehensive Gateway Security Suite, and that got replaced a few years ago by the Advanced Gateway Security Suite. And these were essentially our renewal licenses for the devices that would include your security, your support, your web filtering, and your zero-day threat protection, all wrapped up in a nice little bundle. We've kind of broken that down a little bit now to give you more tiers and more variety. So right now, we have Essential and Advanced, and by the close of December, we will have Premier available as well. But I will be talking about all three of them just to show you where they sit and what you get with them. So you have Essential, Advanced, and Premier. Essential is basically analogous to AGSS, or the Advanced Gateway Security Suite. So what you're going to get here is all of your security services, your 24/7 support, your web filtering, your capture ATP, basically everything that you need to have security on your device. Now, if you want a little bit more, that's where you move across to advanced. And the key difference between advanced and essential is going to be wrapping in that cloud management and including a 7-day rolling reporting ability. So that's 7 days of rolling reporting, able to basically generate reports based off of threats and traffic and all sorts of things running across your firewall. So that's where advanced sits. Now, coming later this year, we're going to be rolling out Premier, and the really big key differentiator really between Premier and Advanced is we move that 7-day reporting to a year of annual reporting, and we've also added in the analytics reporting as well. So you get full analytics reporting as well as 365 days of reporting as well. And we also bundle in 5 users of Capture Client Endpoint and 5 users of Cloud Application Security as well. But the key difference really that is the most important is going to be that extended reporting and the analytics bundle. So depending on where you want to sit, you've essentially got core security with management and base reporting, and core security with management and full reporting. So depending on where you want to go, you'd either go into Essential, Advanced, or Premier. And really just to put that against what we have with AGSS and CGSS, you can see just quite how limited CGSS is in its offering, which is why we retired it in favor of AGSS. And actually you can see how similar AGSS and Essential really are. I think that's a big takeaway from this. So for those of you that don't necessarily want cloud management, Essential is going to be the licensing that you're going to be going for on your new generation solutions. Now, there are a few questions that come up quite frequently, and I'm just going to cover them off here for you folks so that you get a good understanding for them. So how do I position generation TZs against low-end NSAs? Well, one of the things you need to understand is you are still going to have on the low-end NSAs much greater port density. You're going to still have more connection count, and overall it's going to be more geared to more users. You're going to have more users support higher VPN density. So for something that is going to essentially be used as sort of a corporate firewall rather than a branch firewall, the NSA is still going to be a very good fit. So that's really where that differentiation is going to come in. Again, the NSA is rack mountable and the TZs aren't their desktop form factor. So what OS does the Gen 7 TZ series run? Well, this is important to understand because we're launching 2 OSs. We're going to be launching on the Gen 7 TZs, which is what we've done, is SonicOS 7. And that's going to be on our Gen 7 TZs, our Gen 7 NSAs, and our Gen 7 virtual appliances. Now, coming early next year, we're going to be also launching SonicOS X7, and this is going to be something that's geared around specifically enterprise deployment, and it's going to be an optional configuration method for the NSA range. It's not going to be available for the TZs, it's going to be coming for the NSAs, and it's going to have our unified policy engine. It's not really geared towards smaller deployments. It really is a new way of generating policy, and it's really aimed more at the enterprise market. So it is optional. There's no cost associated to it. You literally choose which way you wish to start configuring your firewall going forwards. Right now, at this time, it's going to be kept as an NSA and NSV only. TZs will just run standard OS 7, but just remember that OS 7 is also going to be standard across the NSAs and the NSVs as well. When can you start ordering the new NSVs, new TZs? They are already out there. Distribution already have them. So if you want to speak to NetThreat about acquiring a new TZ, they'll be able to get you one right away. Will the security service bundles work for older generation firewalls? That's a good question that comes up a lot. The answer to that is no. So Essential, Advanced and Premier are going to be linked directly to Generation 7 and newer firewall generations going forwards. AGSS and CGSS is our legacy licensing model and will remain on the Generation 6 devices. There are no plans to migrate the new licensing platform across to the older hardware. So really, just to summarize everything that I've gone through so far today, what we see here is essentially we've got that massive improvement with 10 gig interfaces on the TZ670 and 5 gig interfaces on the 570, bringing this multi-gig experience into a smaller office. Now, no longer you limited to a single gig connection, you can now got multiple 5 gig or 10 gig connections on a small form factor box. We've got that full integration with SD branch, which means if you're looking for those sort of rolled out solutions with full security and integration across the SonicWall suite of devices and solutions, that's something you can now do. Again, having that unified security posture by leveraging the network security manager, allowing you to have a consistent level of security and security settings across your portfolio of solutions, couldn't be easier. And again, this kind of ties in with that zero touch deployment, making that deployment of the device as quick and as easy as possible, and then having that all managed from that single pane of glass. So those of you with a SonicWall account, which I'm going to guess is most of you, you all already have access to Capture Security Center, which basically means that when you go for something like a TZ670 with Advanced, you will be able to use the management platform there as well. Another takeaway from this as well is brand new operating system, much more streamlined, easier to use. On top of that, we've got the higher performance, up to 3 times, putting through multi-gig throughput with security turned on. It really is quite a phenomenal piece of kit. And then lastly, we've got those new security models to simplify licensing so you can get exactly what you want to make life a lot easier. So really, coming back to where it all began, it's all about knowing the unknown and that unified visibility and control. And with knowing the unknown, you know, being able to basically tie this in with the firewall, being able to have that seamless coverage of your organization with that zero-day threat protection, essentially protecting you against those unknown threats, being able to essentially have an understanding how that can protect you with your new TZ, and that unified visibility control, enabling you through that cloud management to see everything that's happening within your network and being able to see unwanted apps, potential breaches, and being able to stop that siloing and essentially get the most out of the security of your devices and your network and act upon that as quickly as possible and even deliver forensics. That's really where all of this comes into, and it really makes a core difference. So I'd like to thank you, and I think we have a question that has just come up. Let me just bring up the chat window. Please bear with me. There we go. So I'm now going to bring up the participants. There we go. And so let's see what we have. A question from Mark Saunders. Are there any good deployment guides available for the new Gen T7s with new features available? It would be great to have best practice to follow. Absolutely. If you have a look in SonicWall.com, we've got getting started guides that are available for the Gen 7 appliances, and for the new features, they're covered off in KB articles in the knowledge base as well. So that's all fully available there. What I'm going to do now is just give Sarah back her voice so she can ask any questions and finish off where needed.
Hi guys, hope you can hear me. Thank you very much, Alexis. That was really interesting. We covered a lot of ground there. Just to say, if you are interested in any of the secure upgrade deals, please do get in touch. We've also got some help and advice on our website, and I will be sending out a copy of this recording to you all, so again you can have a look at it at your own leisure. And of course, you know, the team here at NetThreat, SonicWall Online, are always happy to help you. Just give us a call on 0845 270 7744. So all that remains is for me to say thank you to everybody for participating and joining us this morning. And of course, once again, many thanks to Alexis for his time and putting together such a great slideshow. Thank you, Alexis.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for the invitation. I hope you all found this helpful.
Thank you. We'll hopefully see you again soon. Thank you, guys.
Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.